slings and arrows of open source security. I'm Todd, and that's
Thomas.
I work on Beardsley. You may have heard of it. You work on
Aircraft G.
May have heard of it.
Open Waves too.
So yeah, that's us.
Yeah.
More of the same. Go ahead. So yeah, I don't have a funny name on the internet anymore. I've been recently promoted to vulnerability manager for Rapid7 as well. So if you have bugs in Metasploit or Expose, please tell me, or write to security@rapid7.com, and you will probably talk to me. So we do both inbound and outbound vulnerabilities. I'm also a network dork, and I love open source security, and that's what we're going to talk about today.
So why open source? For me, I want to share the stuff I was making. I want to share the knowledge so that people could know how stuff is done. And I also wanted to share the code so everybody can see the code, improve it, help us improve, and that kind of stuff. So.
And I love open source security because I want to spill all the beans. Security, like as an industry, I don't know if you've noticed, is somewhat obsessed with secrets. We still have to deal with secrets in open source security as well, but usually on a very shortened timeline. And I'm not just talking about like vulnerabilities and exploits and ODA and all that stuff, but even stuff like the stuff that Thomas does was at one point considered somewhat secret. It's a little bit of a black art. When you're doing things like IDS or forensics or really anything involving security, there's this like component of mysticism involved, at least from the perspective of non-security people. And so I think open source is really powerful. It is a powerful way to bring that out kind of into the open. You can attract, maybe perhaps not full-time security people to like look at your stuff. And in Metasploit in particular, because we deal with vulnerabilities all the time, we also, in open source, we can devote the whole next hour talking about disclosure, if you want, because that's such an exciting conversation. No. Basically, we practice all of this. I kind of lean, if I have the choice, I will lean towards the last, which is reasonable disclosure, which is basically responsible disclosure, but I'd say what the timeline is. And the timeline is not measured in hours. We tend to do, I like 60 days. I think anybody can do anything in 60 days, like get your patch out, tell your customers, whatever. Yeah, we can talk more about that if you want, but probably not. The main problem I see with open source security today, at least in terms of like vulnerabilities, is, does not happen anymore? Awesome.
Did you break it?
I totally broke it, dude.
Wow. Metasploit source. Explosion.
Yeah, marks are supposed to be reliable. Don't say so.
There we go.
Okay.
Perfect. Is the corrupting influence of money on vulnerabilities. If you just Google for something like EFF, zero-day economics, you'll find pretty much the position paper on paying for ODA. Personally, I'm not going to dictate. We can also have that boring conversation if you want, but I'm not going to stand here and tell you like you should never sell your ODA. Go ahead, sell it all you want. I don't have a problem with like Microsoft's bounty programs, Google's bounty program, Facebook's bounty program, because generally these guys are buying balls to fix them, right? If you have information to the contrary on these, then please by all means speak up, because it's an open forum. But these guys at least advertise that they're buying these bugs in order to make the world a better place. There are people who are not buying these bugs to make the world a better place. They're using them for SIGINT, as has been revealed many, many, many times. I don't think it's a huge surprise to anybody that there are organizations that buy bugs to exploit them, and kind of more cowardly organizations that buy bugs to kind of squash them so they never have to deal with them. you can kind of consider like litigation as a form of buying bugs too, because they're just paying lawyers instead of you, which doubly sucks. So I think disclosure is really important, just because when there are unpatched bugs out in the world, it makes the internet less useful. And I like the internet, it's my people. Yeah, sure. When you're working in open source security, I think you have more, you're more likely to run into trouble than in, say, like working on just some regular non-security open source software, like some JavaScript framework, because we need more of those.
You're gonna run in deep trouble with that.
You'll never get into any trouble with that. Everybody will love you forever. It's super easy to get yourself in trouble with the press. When you are talking to press and you say words like, yeah, I found this vulnerability out on the internet on 30,000 machines. Like the follow-up question is, how did you find that out? And then you get into this whole like port scanning's not a crime conversation. And hey, it turns out sometimes it is. It doesn't matter. Hey, CFAA. Yeah, for some people, port scanning is a crime. It can be a crime, and so that's your first mistake, is that you just admitted to crime in the press using your, because like I said, I have no funny name. Have a funny name. That helps. You can run into the trouble with the law in the US and outside the US. Like InfoSec security, or InfoSec is somewhat concentrated, in Europe, US, Western Europe, stuff like that. There are big swaths of the world where like what we do here is illegal, period. There are big chunks of Africa where this is super not cool. Like if you were writing, say, like a reasonable secure proxy software, say, as an open source security project, don't deploy this in Ethiopia because the Ethiopian government will mess you up. They have a monopoly ISP model. They're very interested in what all the traffic is coming in and out, and when you try to evade that, you get knocks on your door pretty quick. So you should be aware, like generally, of your legal framework that you're operating in, and you should be aware that I'm not a lawyer and none of this constitutes legal advice. Please don't sue me for malpractice. And that's it. So, and I don't know, like there are a lot of ambiguities. There's some state statutes in the U.S. that can describe things like teaching criminal behavior is a crime, and the language is super vague. There was something recently passed, I think it was passed in Texas, where I'm at, where, something about like hacking for any benefit, and benefit could be defined as like lols, which is now like more criminal. Accessing computers that you don't have authorization to access, but yet you can never find out what that authorization is. There's a whole pile of stuff to get in trouble with this. So just kind of go into whatever your open source security project is with your eyes open. That's all.
Alright, just don't access computer you're not allowed to.
And good luck finding out what you're allowed to access.
Yeah,
I'm allowed.
You are not allowed to access this website.
I had something like a few years ago when I was giving a training at Burgon about Wi-Fi cracking. I was told that the computer crime unit in Belgium was at the training, so they asked me not to hack the other access points. I guess they wanted to make sure that we're not going to access the other access points and stuff. So I'm going to talk about a little bit how to create a successful project and different steps involved in that, and different things that can happen to you. You have to pick a project. You can go to a hackerspace to see what's going on. You can go to conventions. Make sure that's something doable. Like, not I'm going to crack that whole big thing that takes ages. So
I'm going to tackle AES.
Yep. Yeah. Fund vulnerabilities in AES itself. Make sure it's not illegal. I've seen a couple of months ago, a guy had a project of scanning the whole internet or something. I unfortunately, he got in trouble. Yeah. Don't access computers that you're not allowed to touch.
Unless you're HD.
Yeah. You yeah. If you do a pen test, then yeah, you have authorization to do stuff. You can contribute to some project that you find online on GitHub and stuff. Make sure that you're interested. So if you're not interested and you want to create your own project, that's not going to last very long. And you have to be very passionate about what you do. If you're not, a few months later, you're going to drive a project you won't have time because it's kind of it takes a long time, a lot of time to work on that. So to run a project here, we'll have a few different things that you need. You will need a hosting. There are some free stuff like GitHub, Jira for bug track, Assembler if you still want to use track and stuff. SourceForge is still pretty good. Cosplays from Microsoft, and I've heard a couple more. So lots of different stuff. I think you said Bitbucket.
Yeah, Bitbucket is like a GitHub competitor basically. So, I'm sorry. Victorious.
Thanks.
I have some stuff on SourceForge still, and it's not bad.
Fresh meat.
There's a Git interface now in SourceForge, right?
They hate free licenses.
Hmm?
They hate free licenses.
And I hear great things about Jira. If you can figure it out.
Yeah.
If you have a bachelor's in Jira.
Yeah. Jira, if you have an open source project, you can request a free license, and they have a bunch of plugins that you can add. They have online stuff. That's pretty nice. Or you can roll your own stuff, which is based on your needs. So you can install whatever you want. It can be more convenient. But that means, do it yourself means do maintenance yourself, and that thing takes a long time. I spend way too much time on managing servers, updating stuff, updating all the different software I have, the forum, the wiki, track. I still have a build that I have to reinstall and stuff. So, and it can become expensive since you have to sometimes get your own server.
Yeah, this free stuff is expensive sometimes.
Yeah. Not fun stuff. Like, since you're doing security, you are a target. People are gonna try to hack you. Cyber squatting on domains. So for that, domains are pretty cheap. So make sure to grab small modifications of your name. For example, crack. There's a dash. I took with and without dash. .netcom, base, info, etc. Domains are cheap.
Yep.
You're gonna.
I'm cyber squatting right now on Metasploit actually. I own the Metasploit.pro.
Nice.
Metasploit.com is the real one. Don't go to Metasploit.pro. It just redirects.
It's for professionals.
It's only for professionals.
You're gonna get DOSed or DDoSed. I had that a while ago. Basically, the provider that was giving me, I was paying for that. Giving me the bandwidth. I had 2 terabytes a month, so it should have been more than enough. Unfortunately, the way it counts the traffic is that when you request a file and start downloading it, it counts the amount, the size of the file as taken, even if you stop downloading it. So a nice little guy in Spain made a script or something and took the whole bandwidth. Provider asked me to pay for money to get my set back before the end of the month. That was not fun. I'm glad the community was there to help, so I posted something on my blog, say, hey guys, could you help me to get the website back? And I was surprised I got a lot of help, and even more to continue paying for hosting for a few more months. It was very nice.
Just on the DDoS, we had a pretty nice DDoS attack on us a few years ago. Some dude decided that they wanted to just like straight up SYN flood us, but they were SYN flooding and track back like how that was working, and they were going by DNS name. Well, we control the DNS. So, okay, you want to send flood metasploit.com? Well, that's great. Metasploit.com is now you. And then that went away because he was DDoSing himself forever. And so that only took like a day. So Metasploit.com was down for like a day. You'll see like in the open network stats, like you'll see a little drop like that for one day. That was that. So yeah, I mean if you're in the, but that's the thing, right? Like if you're in the security space, you should probably know how to deal with this. You're doing open source security anyway. You probably know a couple guys, even if you don't know everything about everything, like which nobody does. You probably know somebody who knows something about what you're doing, so you can get good advice like that. So.
Oh yeah, one more thing. Do backups. Even if it's
Backups
free,
is
and
security.
even if they say, we have backups for a month. I've got the forum that was hosted on a cloud system from my provider. Fortunately, that thing stopped. I couldn't access that thing anymore. And because they were doing maintenance, they were not allowing to reboot anymore. So they stopped it. And the data, the MySQL data, fortunately was on the disk that was not stored. So whenever I turn out the machine, everything disappeared. So make sure you have backups. And now they won't let me access that machine anymore. They were supposed to give me access last month so that I can retrieve an old backup from a year ago. I'm still waiting for that. I'm gonna bother them next week. So development. You're gonna have fun with licensing. Make sure to deal with that. It's something very boring. As a developer, I don't care. I want to make code. I don't care about licensing. I want to get my stuff out. But the thing is, you would need a license, or if you don't do that, you would end up running into trouble. I've had some issues with the Debian licensing because some of the files didn't have a license. So they asked me to get a license to make sure that all that code was GPL or at least BSD. Fortunately, there is one guy that I cannot contact anymore because he worked on that like 6 or 7 years ago. He started way before that, so 8 years ago. So I have no idea where that was. The only contact I had was on the NetStumber forum. It was a correct guy, and I was never able to contact him. But I guess we figured out it was a public domain or GPL since he contributed to GPL. Make sure to pick a license. GPL is good. I like it very much for what I do.
I'm not a big fan of GPL. BSD for life.
Yeah. BSD is much more simpler.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah. I'm not a lawyer, like I said before, and neither are you. Probably. No? No lawyers?
Almost.
Cool. Almost? Oh, good.
Yeah, nice.
So what's the best license? So almost legal advice. There's no idea.
There's a lawyer there.
But this is a lovely website. It's from the GitHub guys from like 2 weeks ago, I think it launched. It's a really good overview. Like it's another one of these like overview in human language, not legalese, of the main features of all the of all your more likely licenses. So you'll have GPL for certain things and BSD for other things. I like BSD because I don't want to put any restrictions on you because I'm a big old anarchist and you should be too. The Apache license, everything. So super great site. Check it out.
So for the code, make sure to use standard tools, use libraries, don't reinvent the wheel. So that takes time. Comment your code. You're gonna regret it if you don't do that. Like if you 5 or 6 years later, saying, what the hell did I do here? Why did I do this thing that looks like crap? So make sure to comment if something is unusual. Just give it big steps. So I guess you guys know. Use source control. It's very useful. Use comments when you comment. I remember a company I was at. They use was Microsoft stuff. What was it?
SourceSafe.
SourceSafe.
Yeah.
Visual SourceSafe. That's all what I hated. And the guys were using that like hard disk. So basically you have to check all the files when you work on it. So there's no way two people can work on the same files. It's kind of hard. And when they were committing, just at the end of the day, commit all my files, no comments. So go figure out what they do, what they did. So methodologies, depending on how you work. If you work in a company, methodologies, yes, you should use them. If you are on your own, well, that's going to be kind of hard to follow some. Make sure to keep developing new stuff. So if you don't, people are going to lose interest. They're not going to use your project anymore. I've heard some program like that we've been using, Quagga. You guys have heard Zebra, OSPFD, BGPD. So it does that stuff. So people don't remember projects if you haven't worked on it.
So kind of as a footnote to that, like especially, I don't know if this is especially security because I'm mostly a security guy. I'm not really much of a software engineer by training. In security, we have we have conferenceware, right? Like you develop a thing for a month right around CFP time, and then you like fix all the bugs like a week to an hour before your talk. You might get some commits in there afterwards, and then you're done. You're done forever. So please don't do that. If you're gonna do that, like that's cool and everything. Just make your license like super open so someone else can pick it up if it's at all interesting. But yeah, I mean that seems to me at least it seems kind of endemic in security, and so that's my complaint for.
Be quality driven. So open source means everybody can see it. That means potential future employers. So make sure you do it well, since you have a lot of time to do it. You might not get it, know the language at first, so just do it, and then you can rewrite the codes sometime later. Make versions, then goes with keep developing. So keep releasing, or people are gonna forget. Sometimes people just follow the project for just the version, and not the subversion. I have a lot of commits on the subversion and not many releases. I haven't had a release in like 3 years, and I released like a few months ago. Yeah. Release often. You will always want to perfect it to make sure that everything is right, but sometimes you have to make a release so that people can try it. There are some people that will use the code in subversion, but most of the bug reports you're going to have is when you do release. People are going to test that.
Yeah, and let's talk about QA for a little bit, shall we? In security software, in general, there is a surprising lack of QA.
That's software in general.
Well, sure. But I think it's more in security because like the cadence. Me and my counterpart, by the way, from BSidesLV Pro is right there, Trevor. We talk about this constantly. The cadence for your typical security project is, okay, I have my discovery, I need to pocket out super fast so I can hit a conference, or exploit the bug because I'm on site. I'm a pen tester and I'm banging out my code. Works for me, so I'm going to publish and move on, and that's it. That's the beginning and the end. No testing, no QA, no nothing. If you do that, you will regret something later, because you might not notice it at first, but you'll notice it later, especially like 3 months from when you try to do the same thing. You're like, what WTF, man? So staying testable is probably like we talked about before, commenting. Continuous integration is totally a thing, and we use continuous integration on Metasploit. We use Travis CI, it's open source, it's great. Like every Git commit, it runs through the standard set of tests. Now, if you haven't written any tests, you're going to pass. If you've written one test, say like, did it crash? Like you'll hopefully pass. But hey, if that one doesn't pass, then hey, it's better than nothing, right?
It's pretty easy to write. You just have to add the Travis.yml file
Yep.
in your project root, and register to Travis and link it to your project. And that's very easy. we have that's fine Metasploits. I have one for our CrackNG too. We sync all our ISVN to Git, and we use Travis to do stuff.
Yeah. So it's travis-ci.org. It's free. I don't know how to name that.
Did you see any decline in contributions when you started imposing these sorts of software engineering strictures on your
So that was,
project?
you know, it's a fear that you're gonna chase away everybody. Not really. Like now, partly, you know, we're kind of popular at Metasploit. I mean, people have heard of it.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, it gets some use. A little. But on the other end, yeah, I mean, you're gonna get rid of some people. Like some people are gonna say like, screw this. I ain't got time for testing. Nobody got time for that. But then you're gonna attract in, you know, like people who might have more software engineering background. They may not be so much security guys, but that's great because now you have it's a teachable moment for them and a teachable moment for you. Like you'll learn some engineering practices. They'll learn like how to not get their shit out. So.
And if you don't like Travis, you can always have build bots. So you install build bots as a Python script. I used to have that. It's very nice. You install that on a few different machines. And you can see waterfall with all the compiling stuff. You can even do testing with it. On some machines, you're sometimes going to see stuff that fails. I was surprised that something that works on one machine, on one distribution, doesn't work on the other.
Hey.
So, yeah. that's
Turns
fun.
out different distributions are different.
And yeah, and you have Windows, that's another fun thing. And you have Mac. Well, it's not much,
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So like just doing a Java, you don't have any of these problems.
Ruby.
Yeah, Ruby too. Ruby just compiles everything. So yeah. I mean, go ahead.
Support. Well, what's obvious for you is not for the others. Your code, well, that's obvious for you. It works. You know it. But it's not really obvious for the others. So make sure to comment it and explain how your stuff works. If you don't explain how your stuff works, nobody's going to use it. You're not going to have any community around it. Read the code is not acceptable. As I said, not everybody knows how to read code.
Sometimes the code's not readable.
Yeah, that too. And you have to document, support it. You have IRC, you have Freenode, which is completely free for any open source project. Register your forum, register your nick. You can even have a custom cloak so that people don't see your IP address and don't try to hack you.
Yeah, some like security things.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. So you can give that to contributors and other people who have with the project. Email. Sometimes you might want to support over email. It depends how you want to do.
And yeah, and I have a put on your URL all the things. I take my marching orders for documentation from a book called Producing Open Source Software. It's kind of like an orangey red book, super great. It's by Ken Vogel, I'm gonna say, and it's mostly like the subversion story. It's like how SVN came to be. The stricture or the prescription in there is you want to be fascist about referring to URLs. Like have a FAQ, obviously, but when people are asking old questions that you might not have had a FAQ for, but you remember because you have this giant brain that you're working on Social Security, you're super smart. You remember from 2 months ago there was some email conversation like that. Like refer to that in the URL because you're going to have your email all archived. This gets harder for IRC. IRC is much more ephemeral and it's somewhat rude to log IRC.
I have a bot. We have a bot in the channel.
Yeah.
So for
Our CrackNG's bot is
yeah,
awesome.
the common things that people ask, frequently asked questions, drivers and stuff, we have a question mark, and most of the people know that thing. So it's very nice. So you don't have to repeat yourself and try to remember, check your logs, check your email.
Yeah, the bot is very nice.
Yeah. So.
Right now our bot is named Egypt.
Yeah, we can fix that.
And it's on meat. Users aren't devs, but sometimes they're criminals. So when you're in, I think we touched on this a little bit earlier, not only is what you're doing possibly illegal in some jurisdiction somewhere, but someone's end use of your thing may be illegal in some jurisdiction somewhere. And conspiracy charges are a thing. So if you have somebody asking you, it's like, hey, I am having a real hard time, circumventing the firewall on this IP address using your, awesome firewall circumvention tool that you wrote
Go
for
ahead.
testers. Yeah, don't say, don't say, oh, hey, let me help you with that. And they give you the IP address, and then, of course, you're going to reverse DNS it, and it's like some, giant bank in Brazil. You may want to, think about how much you want to help this dude. Yes, I'm not standing in Brazil, but do you really want to be enabling criminals? Generally, when these kind of questions come up, far too often on the Metasploit mailing lists, we politely and sometimes less politely say, listen, dude, this is for penetration testers. You really shouldn't be publishing your client's IP space here. Let them know that you're not going to help. In other cases,
Oh, it's not my client.
huh?
Oh, it's not my client.
Oh, it's not my client. Yeah, no, I'm totally robbing this dude. I mean, no, literally. I mean, this happens way more often than you would expect. We've had guys come up in the channel in email, in Google Plus, just harassing us to hey, I'm trying to get some help on writing some malware. Can you help me? And by the way, I'm from this organization that is unfriendly to the United States. Is that cool with you? No.
Yeah, sure.
Don't engage in these guys because hey, you know how the FBI catches terrorists? They invent terrorists, and don't be a terrorist.
Yeah, we even have rules that for IRC and stuff. So when people know not to hack other people access point and stuff, but sometimes we still got people who don't care. I don't need to read the rules, and you can copy them. That's pretty good at the base if you start a project. So do not hack something that doesn't belong to you. I don't support anybody who would ask you to do that, even if it's really friendly.
Yeah, even if he's really friendly and because
I'm going to give you money.
I mean, you're working in open source, right? So, right? Yeah, I'll totally give you money.
You need money.
Nobody wants money. I like money too, Shane. Everybody, you're working in open source, so you're clearly a helpful person already, right? But you really, this is serious business, right? You need to just go with your gut. If something feels wrong, it's probably wrong. I mean, this is how the mob stays out of jail and how you'll stay out of jail.
And now, which is nice, is that users, people on the forum, on IRC, start to know, contributors start to know that and tell others. And I was surprised from time to time I see in the forum people that have never been there that just posted maybe one time, told another guy, hey, what you're doing is it's not your access point, you cannot do that. So that gets pretty nice. Well, you have to talk about it. So you can go to Hackerspace. It's a very small audience. Sometimes I've been to Hackerspace, a guy talking about bitcoins. There was maybe 8 people in the audience. That was pretty nice. And it allows you to gauge your interest. So see how your conference go, how your talk is gonna go. And you can get feedback since there are not that many people. And sometimes they need a bio and abstract, but depending, most of the time they won't need that. So feel free, you can present at the presentations are more than welcome there. There's DEFCON hack groups all over the US. There's even some in Europe. There's one in London and a few other countries, I think.
Yeah, Google your city hackers, and you're going to find 3 or 4 organizations.
There are more than just DEFCON groups. Hackerspace, just Google Hackerspace and your city name. I'm pretty sure you're going to find one. If not, just Google the next big city next to you. You can go to conventions, like now. They require a bio and abstract, so that you have to talk a little bit, small paragraph about you and a small paragraph about what you're going to talk about. You go through a selection, so you might not get selected. Don't be offended. They get a lot of people asking to talk. Sometimes they don't have enough slots. Say, I'm sorry, dude, we don't have time to hire you. But don't feel offended. You can always try other conventions. There are lots of them. BSides are really nice next to other big conventions. Sometimes they can help with travel and lodging if you really need it. Smaller conventions won't do that. Bigger like DEF CON. I don't know if BSides does it. Black Hat does it, but I think they require you to talk at least for a full hour to get access to a convention. You have free access to a convention, of course, but that means you speaking, so make sure you do a good presentation. Don't do something that scraps. So if you do something like that, they might not let you talk anymore. And people in conventions have connection in other conventions. So make sure that you really want to talk and that you don't do a good job with it. Last minute cancellation, they're not really happy about that. So try to find somebody last minute. I've seen that happen and at a convention, and the guy is not really welcome anymore to speak there. So unless you have a good excuse, somebody died in the family or baby on the way. Presentation, well, you have to prepare and practice a lot. Don't be stressed. A stressed presenter means that the audience is going to be stressed. So practice. Imagine that you're talking to a friend and that you're presenting some stuff to your friend.
Or in this case, actually, my
Great. Me too. So, and make sure your stuff is ready when presenting. Unfortunately, that Mac is supposed to be reliable. I had everything ready. And be careful when joking. I remember I was at school. I was on doing an internship. I had to present what I did during those 4 months of the internship before I got my degree. And all the people that were taking care of the different students that came to the company were there. So there was like 10 different companies. And one guy tried to make a joke when I was presenting. Unfortunately, I didn't get the joke. So it wasn't funny for him at all. So, and if you ever want to make a joke during a presentation yourself, make sure that it's easy to understandable. It's not a technical joke, or nobody's gonna get it.
Or not.
Death by PowerPoint. Well, make sure to have something small, just a few bullet points. Talk around the bullet points. Don't make a huge blob of text and read it.
Yeah, no, interesting.
If you do that, just write something on the blog. It isn't worth it. People are just gonna read the presentation and not follow you. Just fall asleep, leave, or whatever. The other ways, as I said, you can use a blog. Blog is pretty nice. You have time to prepare. You can always change it if you see people telling you that there's something wrong there, wrong command line or something like that. Post news on your website. That's very important so that people see that your project is alive and it's not dead. And you can do YouTube screencasts to present how your stuff work, how to set it up. That's very nice.
People love that. People love screencasts. Like you do screencasts, your usership goes amazingly high up. Especially if you have like lots of web stuff music on it, because people dig that too.
Yeah. Explain to them how to install your stuff. That's one of the most important things.
Yeah.
And how to use it.
Yep.
Work.
This is a job.
Yeah.
It's a job until it's also a job.
Yeah. For me, it's kind of a second full-time job. So after work, well,
Only if you're wildly successful, right?
even at the beginning, you have to, especially at the beginning, you have to work a lot more. So you're gonna be exhausted most of the time. Long hours, 16 hours a day. It's a lot of fun. I love it. You can make a living with it, but it will pretty much takes a lot of time. I don't make a living with it, but I got a job thanks to it, so that's very nice. A job that I really love. And check your company policy. It might not allow you to create a new project, or the project might belong to a company. So make sure to check
In the
that.
US, it almost certainly belongs to the
Yeah.
So yeah, you're gonna want to get some kind of sign off from the manager.
Yeah. Just go talk to your manager, CEO if you know it.
Yeah, and speaking of talking to management, if you can totally sell your open source project to your management. I mean, this is possible, especially if you are really good at biz speak like this. Like, I mean, you need to achieve strategic synergies with proven client-centric open source methodologies that deliver results and ROI. Like, you slip that in, man, it's magical. And they're like, eyes light up. And they're like, oh, you're one of me. You're one of my people.
So they want to know that their money will get value in return.
Yeah, they would like, I know, right?
Bizarre.
I know, but that's the thing, right? It's like, I'm not a marketing guy, I'm not a sales guy, I'm not a VC. I don't, and I'm an anarchist. Yeah. But like, if you say ROI instead of like, yo dude, you're gonna make money, like, that will fly a lot better. What's up?
Before you write a lick of code, go check all the laws, because there are a gazillion of them and nobody understands them.
Right, yeah, we talked about that a little bit earlier at the top of the presentation. I'm not a lawyer. We have almost a lawyer here that also doesn't know anything. About licensing. Almost.
Know about leasing.
I'm sorry.
About
See,
leasing.
don't tell jokes.
About leasing. No, I'm talking about
All my friends are
intellectual
anarchists or
property.
hackers, somebody has to keep you on.
What do you mean?
Exactly. Thank you.
All the California laws, if you're in California, highly favor your employer. So if you write anything, I don't care if it's in your sleep, no matter where you are.
Oh, right, you're
There
talking about the
is a
intellectual
very
property law,
good
yeah.
chance your employer owns that,
Yeah, good luck.
and
It's in Texas too.
Another
you
reason to
can
have a
wind up
funny
in
name.
big trouble. And if you're working for the government in any way, you gotta check all of that. You have to check
Yeah, 'cause
your
you're gonna tax
contracts, the contracting law, check all of that before you start releasing it.
Yeah, if you're not writing
And I'm not a
classified,
lawyer.
classified stuff to ITAR, and something like that, it's a lot of fun.
You have to check all of it.
Yeah.
Pretty sensitive.
Yeah, luckily, I think most of the stuff that we're going to be working on is not going to be munitions anymore, right? Like, that's not a thing. But
Yeah, well, if
export
it's
is.
space
Export
related,
still.
if it's space related, it might
ITAR
be.
is not necessarily just weapons.
Oh, yeah.
It's technical information.
See, I don't know.
Yes.
I'm just renting too.
It's a freelance.
And if it's not in the law that it belongs to a company, it's probably going to be on the contract that you sign.
Yeah,
That's right.
Anyway, a bunch more stuff to make you not want to do anything.
It's boring for developers, but read it.
Yes.
Read it, that's very important.
Really, if you just go to your employer and tell them that you're making this thing that doesn't provide them with business value, then sure, I'll sign the thing, it says it's yours, go for it. I've had that up a couple times.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why you don't do any B stock.
I think that switch too, but yeah. Well, I don't know what this is, just proof of concept.
I think we gotta wrap this up here.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, we're like 5 over.
Okay.
Get like 10 minutes, I think.
10 minutes?
Yeah, I think.
Oh,
Isn't it
super.
6:45?
Okay.
Yeah, it's 6:48.
Oh, perfect.
Okay, great. So once your project is known, here's things that can happen. Next, users, make sure you listen to them. There's the people who use your project and they use your stuff that saying to them, you're there. So you wouldn't be there if you're not using your project. If you need help, always ask. That's what I did, for example, when I had the DDoS. I just more money than what I had, so I could use it for hosting a little bit longer. And explain how to contribute. It's very important. People don't always know. Sometimes they have to sign up for a badge, sometimes they don't. Should I do that thing before? Should I add a comment on top of the badge? Explain all those things. That's obvious for you. That might not be obvious for everybody else. The team, you create a project, you're the leader. Don't be a dictator. We still have the last word, but listen to your teammates.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. Be nice to other people, don't be a jerk. And be thankful for people that works with you, works for you, because most of the time, also for them, it's they're doing it after the job. So, and another thing you might want to consider is that sometimes there are life events that prevents people from contributing to the project. I've had a few guys that contributed quite a bit, and somebody couldn't because they had other stuff coming up. And well, don't expect anything. I've got lots of people that say, hey, I'm going to contribute, I'm going to help you translate, I'm going to help you doing some code. and in the end you start working and they don't do anything. So, and just be happy when somebody actually does something. If you're expecting something from people when you give them credentials for contributing, you will be very disappointed.
Don't take it personally.
As I said, don't become a jerk, and you can become an expert, but you will always sometimes be wrong. I'm sometimes wrong, and I want somebody to tell me that, hey, that thing you said here is wrong. I don't want to keep saying that same stuff all over every single time and keep being wrong, looking like an idiot. And you can write books, training manuals and stuff. I did a training with offensive security, waifu, if you guys have heard about it. You can go teach. I'm doing that too, about 2 times a year. And you can get a job in your project field. And that's a lot of fun. Since you like the project, that's what you're passionate about, that's probably what you want to get.
Yeah, and to kind of go along with like becoming an expert on your thing, you want to avoid specialization. This is more in like kind of components of your code. If you have, say, a packet parsing library, and you have like an IPv6 guy, and anything having to do with the IPv6 stuff, you just like kind of kick over to him. I mean, you have a couple problems here. Obviously, you have a single point of failure, the bus factor, as it's sometimes called. But on top of that, like you kind of start developing these fiefdoms in your code base, where people will feel either uncomfortable committing to that part of your library because they're not that guy. That guy can start becoming a jerk and kind of dissuade people from contributing to my beloved chunk of code that is a reflection of me as a human. Yeah, so you want to avoid kind of doing that, obviously, because if you find yourself kind of sliding down that road, and I think it happens even in like regular software projects all too often, kind of call it out and like get taught on like what this guy was thinking and how you could be a backup and like, hey, I would really like to understand how all your IPv6 magic works because that stuff is freaking voodoo. Because then you can just start teaching each other, and now you've raised your bus factor. This goes back to testing. It goes back to like accepting patches from other people.
Okay, success. Everybody has to get his own. You have to get your own definition of success. It could be getting a job in the project field. It could be doing what you like. So your employer gives you the chance to work on a project for like a few hours a month or a few hours a week. Speaking at convention, you can write books about your stuff. And there are quite a few books about my exploits. Yeah, come on. You can even create a business doing that.
You could get acquired.
Yeah. Yeah, and you
For some
have to
people
deal.
that's success, for some people it's not.
Yeah. You might want to keep your own stuff for you and then not being acquired.
Well, that's the thing, right? It's like different definitions of success. Some people are really into that, some people are not. You trade old problems for new problems.
Yeah. So what's next after that? You have to keep going, keep developing, keep doing versions, advertising for news and stuff. You can go inspire people and be prepared to change and share your experience with others like we do now. You will learn a lot. I learned a lot myself when doing the projects. I got lots of surprises. Some were less fun than others. Partnering is the key to success. You might want sometimes to get the success for yourself, but if you're partnering with people, you're going to get more visibility, and you're going to get both success. And share that with people. That's how you're going to be successful with your project, even for a business. And over it's an advantage on your resume, so make sure it's good code. And or if it's not good code, start rewriting it, post a news, hey, I'm rewriting that thing. I know that code is a piece of shit. I wrote that like 2 or 5 years ago when I didn't know how to code. Also, never back down. Sometimes you're gonna get hacked. You get people that are gonna deface your websites. It's gonna happen. You have been doing that thing for so long. Just keep doing it. It's just one small thing. Just don't stop at that. You can watch that video. It was pretty good. It was open embedded, I think.
Yeah, it's at Intel, like
Yeah.
how to like market open source code, both like externally and internally.
Yeah.
So it's like kind of goes back to this.
Even if you know marketing it, you might want to look at it. They have very good points. They are very useful for creating new projects.
Yeah, and by the way, you don't have to like start the next big thing. You know, you can contribute too. Every open source project on Earth always wants more contributors. Security is no exception. If you are a user of, like, for me, like as a producer of open source software, like I want like a certain percentage of my users to like graduate into at least bug reporters, and of those guys, I want to graduate them into contributors. That'd be awesome. So that can be this everybody here.
Yeah, and contributing is not always about code. You need documentation. You're going to need people to help during IRC, help others when you're not there and stuff. So it's not only about code. I need people to help me with server stuff because I think it takes a lot of time. There are a lot of people that are looking to help projects, but most of the contribution we know is about code.
Yep. At Metasplit, we have about 210 or so like historical people who have contributed to code. Easily 4 times that of people who have never committed, but who have absolutely like been a part of Metasplit success. You know, they've been teaching, they've been writing, they've been doing the whole step YouTube videos. You know, I mean, it's great. So like, and you can do that too. And like, hey, put on your resume. Like, I'm involved in the whatever project. And you know, your employer's probably not gonna check. Yeah, get started. Here are 2 projects to get started on that need contributors.
You can get on both websites and
Yeah, you can
have
have those
links.
tabs. Yeah, you can go back and forth.
You can have links to both those addresses.
And that's it.
Thank you.
Time for 1 question and 1 question only.
We can take questions outside.
And
Yeah, you can
outside.
go to the QA room at the end of the hall.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you.
All right, 0 questions.
Yeah. They'll come back after.
What's that?